that anybody that gets stopped, a policeman do strip searches without probable cause or without his I keep thinking that about what we see in the pictures of the groping and what goes on at our airports. If we put up with that and we don't stand up to it and change that, there's something wrong with us. So I say stand up to this. Let's try to they have a way of protecting themselves, that is the politicians. You know, there's been, the Secret Service has been in the news lately. Have you heard about that? Yeah. I didn't accept any Secret Service protection. But the Congress passed a law that said that if you are an individual being protected by the Secret Service, you're special and you're different. If anybody gets in with so many steps of that individual and you demonstrate with a sign, you didn't do any harm, no violence whatsoever, you can be arrested and get 10 years for demonstrating being a special individual. Now the one characteristic about a free society is that we all be treated equally. No punishments for belonging to a group and no privileges because you belong to a group. Politicians who think they have to have special privileges like that, you know, we cannot accept the principle that some are above the law and some must be treated differently. Everybody has to be treated exactly like under the rule of law. There's another area that has, longer than the current wars of the past 10 years, that have served to undermine our liberties, and it's been going on for a good many years, but especially since the early 1970s. It has caused our national debt to go up over $3 trillion, and it has accomplished nothing. And that is the ill-advised federal war on drugs. Drugs are very dangerous. As a physician and parent, grandparent, I know all the dangers about drugs. But also, I know a little bit about liberty, and I understand a little bit about privacy and what freedom is all about. The war on drugs is a lot more dangerous than the drugs themselves. It's the principle of who is supposed to protect you from yourself and making bad judgment. The government, or should it be you making your decision about it? So it's a freedom issue. If you have the right to make your other decisions on the books you read and the church you go to, you ought to have the right to decide what you put into your own body. But once this liberty is given up, what it leads to is overexplosion of the government, because the government assumes that you need the government to protect you from yourself, which means they tell you about food and drugs and alternative medical care and nutritional products, whether or not you can even drink raw milk is out of the hands of the government. So that'll be one thing. When the republic is restored, we'll all have the legal right once again to drink raw milk. Potential dangers in overeating and everything else. But I don't know of any potential dangers with him. it's benign. The founders of this country advocated it. They all raised it and they pushed it. We did that up until after World War II. But now, we as a people have blindly said, oh, they don't let us raise hemp now because the leaf looks a little bit like marijuana. So what do? We chase all the hemp growers to Canada and then we buy the products that can make from Canada. I'd say let the people grow hemp. Policy is on energy. I say, well, my policy is let the market determine what is the best product at the best price and let it happen. Instead, once you have the government and they have a program, you have subsidies to solar like Solyndra and wind power. And I sort of like the idea of looking into that, but I want the market to decide which is the best one to use. If government comes along and said, well, what we need to do to get less dependence on the oil coming from overseas is not to make it easier to drill for oil or whatnot. They'll say, well, we're going to force you to do is use ethanol in your cars. 10% ethanol or whatever. It will be a mandate. You have to use it. They never ask the question, could that hurt your engines? And some people tell me, it certainly can hurt your engines by burning ethanol. But then they say, well, it has to be corn. Then they put tariffs on imported ethanol that could be cheaper in order to push the prices up, which then pushes the prices up of corn and other products. So it goes on and on. And guess what? One of the best sources of ethanol is from hemp. So they prohibit hemp. This doesn't surprise me at all because I've been up there a couple of years and I know a few of the bureaucrats and I know a few of the politicians. And they are not smart enough to run the economy. They're not smart enough to tell you how to spend your money or what to write. Obviously what we need is a lot more confidence in ourselves. We don't need to be so intimidated that we need so much government. Now the reason why this message is so appealing now is most people now know that our government is broke. Most people know now that the good jobs have left our country, that we have not produced any real good jobs in the last 10 years. This jobs market has been static. And that the standard of living has been going down, and we have 30 million new people in this country. So people know that, so that's why they're looking for something else. What they failed to figure out what was happening over these 50, 60, 70 years is that we were wealthy and we could afford all this mischief. Wars that should have been fought and redistribution of wealth and entitlement system to give everybody a free house and free education, free medical care, and all we did was get higher prices. The housing example is a perfect example of how entitlements backfire and don't work. It was supposed to be meant to help poor people get houses. Well, they did for a while, and they used it as a cash cow. They borrow against increasing equity. Then the country goes bankrupt. They lose their jobs and they lose their house. Guess who get bailed out? The people who were making all the money in the financial markets with the housing money, the Fannie Mae's and the Freddie Mac's and the Goldman Sachs. So very simply, we have to reject the notion that the entitlement system actually works, and since we're broke, we can't continue with this. It doesn't work, it's not right, it's not part of the Constitution. We're now broke, but we need to go back to work. I think what happened to us a good many years ago is because one of the consequences, and a good consequence of freedom, is prosperity. And it's wonderful. But what happened is we concentrated on the material prosperity and we started looking to the government for special favors and redistribution and privileges. And during all that time, we started consuming the wealth that we have, consuming the value of our dollar, and now the treasury is bare, and we're not producing, and we should concentrate on something we have forgotten about. How do you produce wealth? Concentrating on the free market, private property, contracts, gold standards, balanced budget, and a send someone